Hello everybody, and welcome back to my YouTube channel to another episode of whatever the hell this is. I may even decide to call this by that name, the whatever the hell this is show. Maybe, I don't know. Anyway, I got a real juicy one for you today, and it's a lot to cover, so let's just jump right in, shall we? I saw a video today by an individual who whose videos I've come to, I've discovered, and his name is Nikos Sotirakopoulos. I'm assuming he's Greek, but this is the name right here. And I realize that that's probably going to appear backwards to all of you, so I don't know why I showed you that. I'll include information if you want to go check out the video yourselves. It's an excellent breakdown. Basically, he really gets down to the really roots and essential defining concepts of Marxism and communism. Well, communism is just a product of Marxism. And he really breaks down essentially what Marxism is essentially all about and how it differs from capitalism. And I want to talk about it. And I want to talk more specifically how this is relevant to a lot of the other stuff we talk about. Excuse me. Ugh. I don't know why I'm yawning so much. I'm not even really tired. But so much of the type of things that we talk about on this channel. So one of the big things that I've talked about a lot is what I call, and I didn't call it that. I'm just calling it what others have called it, the Red-Green Alliance. Red meaning socialism or far left politics. Extremist forms of liberalism, or more correctly, I should say leftism, but we'll get into that. Sorry, it's so unprofessional of me, I can't help it. Part of it, I think, is I take an antidepressant, and that's one of the side effects is it makes me yawn a lot. Yes. So we talk about whereas the green being Islamo-supremacist ideology, which is the ideology behind all of the radical Islamic regimes and all the terrorist groups and all of that sort of thing. And there's this very weird alliance between them for some weird reason. As many have pointed out, how bizarre and ridiculous it seems, at least on the surface. Like, why would liberal, feminist, queer, non-binary leftists want to march with groups like Hamas, who are violent, rabidly homophobic, rabidly anti-Semitic, terrorist organizations, rabidly anti-Semitic, violent terrorist group. They throw gay people off buildings in Gaza if they find out you're gay. If you're a Palestinian and Hamas finds out that you're gay, or that you're doing gay stuff, that they execute you by throwing you off a roof. Why would anybody on the left who believes in gay rights and believes in LGBT rights and all that sort of thing, why would they ever want to march with those monsters, with people that support such horrible, evil, totally the opposite of their ideology? Well, we're going to get into that. So I want to start out by talking a little bit about one of the you'll see it if you watch the video with Nikos. He talks a lot about how Marxism essentially And we'll get back to the Islamism and all that. We'll get back to that. We'll circle back. But he talks about how Marxism essentially strips away individualism in favor of the collective. And he goes, I'm not going to get into all of it. If you want to watch the video, you can. But he gets into all this nitty-gritty detail from Marx's own word, Karl Marx's own writings, where he basically lays out that the general Marxist view of the world is that people exist as different collectives, and the two main collectives are the bourgeoisie, which are the rich and the powerful, who are actually numerically the minority, and then the proletariat, who are the majority of people, the working people, and that the biggest issue is that the working people do not own the means of the production that they put in, and their labor is bought and sold rather than enjoyed for themselves personally. And that's capitalism. That's how capitalism works. And that they don't get, basically it's like the proletariat the working class people, they don't receive the direct benefit of their labor. Rather, they receive second and third and fourth hand through this monetary system, where eventually their labor is turned into capital, hence the term capitalism, which comes back to them as a form of monetary gain or some form of, economic or financial credit, something like that. Marxism, Karl Marx said that that the main thing is these groups and how they function and their role and their historical struggle with each other. The collective, the small collection of power and resources concentrated under the control of a small group, while the vast majority go out there and work and struggle to benefit this small group, and don't directly receive from their own efforts. Rather, they're serving the small group, the fat cats, if you will. Basically, slave wages on behalf of the rich. And he breaks down history into this big whole, generally breaks all of history into this big grand struggle between these two groups. Now, Marx, from this, you'll see in the video by Nikos, where he really gets into the more nitty-gritty of it, he basically devalues individualism, because it's not about the individual. The individual is but a drop in the bucket. It's really about these groups and about collectives. And all of Marx's view of history is based on the dynamics between these different groups. And so capitalism, when you break it down, capitalism basically is saying that it favors the individual, because it values individual production. Because basically, in Marxism, everything that the individual does needs to be for the good of the collective, for the good of the group. And not only should it be, but it needs to be. And in fact, if it isn't, that's actually a bad thing, and that doing something just for you, for your own individual self, or for your family alone, is not only not important, but it's actually to a certain degree criminal, because it's stealing from your being able to benefit the collective. And in the particular case of the bourgeois and the proletariat, favoring the doing everything you can to favor the agenda and the objectives of the proletariat against the bourgeoisie, against the powerful, small, uh, uh, rich and powerful, group of rich and powerful people who disproportionately own, everything. And that that's just the natural course of things. That's just the march of history. That's just the way of the world. That's just the way it works. I'm not saying that is the case. I'm saying that's what Marx said. That was his view. And so if you think about it from that term, if you're doing something for yourself, in a way, you're holding back history. You're not contributing to the freedom and the objectives of the collective good, of the majority. And so that's why if you, like, especially when you see, like, movies about communism and stuff, what's the biggest thing, or, whether it's, like, movies, like, action movies that take place, in communist Russia, like James Bond movies or whatever, or documentaries or whatever books you read, you always notice that in socialist countries, people that are always targeted and arrested and killed and all that are the individualists, the people that want to stand up and shine and celebrate themselves. And there are artists, scientists, poets, because they're not benefiting the state, they're not benefiting the party, they're not benefiting the oh God, what's the word? There's the greater good, but that's not the word I'm thinking of. Well, whatever. You get the gist of it. It's always like you're always charged. Those people are always charged with crimes against the people. Oh, that's what it was. The people. That's what I was trying to think of. It's always we're doing this on behalf of the people, and by you doing your own thing and not contributing to the people, you're now an enemy of the people. And so the socialist government, a socialist government, is there to protect the interests of the masses, of the people. And that's why they're targeting you, because of course, if you're doing something directly against the interests of the state and the people, they'll come after you. But even if you're not, even if you're just not contributing, or you're contributing something that doesn't, you're putting out something that doesn't contribute to the greater good, then you're punished. And so capitalism says no. Capitalism says you should put out your best and your individual talent and try, and work to be recognized, and take your talents and your ideas and your creativity and make something of it. And so, like, basically, capitalism, to a certain extent, says very much the opposite of the phrase we always hear, the world doesn't revolve around you. Think about it like this. Socialism is the world doesn't revolve around you. Capitalism is actually, yes, it does, and that's not a bad thing. That's actually a good thing. If you want to I think that's a good way of, like, kind of sort of summing up both things up. Now, let's see. And so therefore, I was just checking my notes. I guess I got a lot of great stuff for this video. I want to make sure I don't miss anything. But so therefore, capitalism fosters individualism. And one of the most important things in with capitalism is the notion of private property. Now, we might hear the idea of private property and be like, all right, it's just some sort of a boring civil legal term. Yeah, okay. But no, actually, the concept of individual private property is very important for understanding capitalism versus Marxism, because as we said before, anything that's individual is discouraged. So therefore, property, you can't really have private property because it's in socialism, because like private property, what do you mean private property? Everything is public. Everything is owned by everybody, essentially. Everything belongs to everyone. And so the idea of private property, of saying, no, I have my own free, autonomous, separate rights, and this is let's say this bottle of hand sanitizer, this is mine. I worked for it, I paid for it, whatever it is, this is mine, it belongs to me, rightfully, and nobody can take it from me without my permission. And that's capitalism. Socialism basically says that's so selfish of you. That's so that's you're not helping any at all, and that's wrong. Because it's greedy. It's what the bourgeoisie do. They only care about their own private interests and themselves and all that sort of thing. So actually, the notion of private property is sort of like a good concrete example, if not the essence, of the difference between capitalism and socialism, and why they are the way they are. Now, let's see. Yeah, okay. And so, therefore, Marxism fosters collectivism and the gradual devaluing of individual human purpose, which I think at this point in the video I pretty much explained that at this point, so we don't really need to belabor on that. Let's see. Okay, now to let's see. Okay, so now to get back to the thing about sort of back to the thing about the Red-Green Alliance. So, Islamo supremacy is like, why would it get along with leftism, right? Well, the thing is, leftism is basically, and it's not the same as liberalism. Leftism, especially the most extreme versions of it, almost always is socialism. Like, if you look at like most leftist ideas and everything, they, in one way or another, usually boil down to socialism or Marxism or neo-Marxism, whatever. Let's see. Okay, so in Islamo supremacy, oh wait, oh sorry, I got my notes backwards. I had an order I wanted to talk about this stuff in. If it's out of order, it won't make much sense. Okay. Alright. So, yeah. So, now let's talk about Islamo supremacy. Islamo supremacy also is a form of collectivism that pretty much devalues the individual, because it's all about the Ummah, the larger Muslim community, and when you fight and you're basically basically sacrificing yourself. Well, yes, for their understanding of God and everything, but also for the greater ummah, for the Muslim community. And with the Islamo supremacists, their goal is world domination and a global caliphate. And so, therefore, if you're not working towards that ultimate goal, not only are you betraying the nation, not literally nation, but like the body of Muslims worldwide, but you're actually holding it back, and not you're holding back the cause, and it's doubly wrong because you're betraying the Ummah, the global Muslim community, and you're betraying Allah, you're betraying God. So you're doubly fucked, basically. And so, yeah, okay. So with that understanding, now let's talk a little bit about the modern left, or, well, yeah, I'd say the modern left. At least the most extreme forms of it. So we've already talked about how it's into socialism, the leftist ideologies that pretty much all of the roots in socialism, and they favor collectivism, and so then one really big thing about that is a problem is along with devaluing individuality and all that, the radicals on the left, they don't value reason. That you can't really argue and reason with them because they most of them won't argue. They will start arguing, with you, maybe a little bit, but ultimately, they don't really care about, what's they called? Oh, damn it. Yeah, they don't care about the actual truth and what's really going on, and they're not really interested in really reason or rationality if it doesn't serve the collective, the cause. So basically, they squash reason and independence or independent thinking, yeah. So if you ever see these videos of people going out and debating the pro-Palestine people, who not the Muslim ones, but the leftist ones, it doesn't matter what points or whatever you say, they're not really gonna debate you, because as soon as you get them on a point, they go off onto something else, and you'll see it's very, very, very rarely do they have a really calm, rational discussion. For example, Cenk Uygur, on the Young Turks. This guy is a lunatic, and I find it really funny to watch him because he's so nuts, and he gets so angry, and he gets sweaty and red, and he just says the craziest shit. One time, one of the craziest things I ever heard him say, he goes, you can look it up, he actually said this, non-sarcastically or non-ironically, he said, the Palestinians are the best people on earth. He actually said that. he's he said they are the best people on earth. Like, wow. And if I remember correctly, this was followed by him mocking Israel, going, "Oh, Israel! Oh, it's the Jewish state. It's the greatest state of all." But if you listen to it, he's clearly being sarcastic in the first part and serious in the second. Because, like, I could see him backpedaling and being like, no, I was just being sarcastic when I said both those things. But let's put it this way. I have like a disability where I have trouble reading nonverbal cues and stuff like that, and body language. And even I could see that, the difference between the two. Like, even with my struggle, with understanding that, even I can see that there's a clear difference by way of his saying. But so, like, that's the thing. They don't. It's not about. They don't want to argue. They don't want to have their minds challenged. They just want to go with what everybody else is doing. And so with the, let's see. Okay. There's this is going to be really kind of controversial with some people, but, I used to be in AA for a few years, and without going into the whole saga and everything about it, the essential thing they teach you or believe in AA is you're in this constant, the alcoholic and addict is in this constant struggle. It's like this constant struggle against selfishness and self-interest, but to such an extreme level. Like this one guy, this AA dude, that he's a big, circuit speaker, which means he gets invited all over to speak at AA conferences and all this stuff. His whole thing is, he's like, the self is awful. The self is terrible. It needs to be ground into the dust. And like he says, the drugs and alcohol are but a symptom. The actual problem is the selfishness. And when I was in AA, I'd never heard that before, and I kind of just like blindly accepted it at one point. And actually at first it was like a relief. Like, how would I explain this? I should have said, so the way to get over the selfishness that's ruining your life and all that is to follow their program and get connected with God and that sort of thing. But the problem with it is that that's not human. That's not normal. Like, at first it feels really good because it's like, oh, I don't have to struggle. I give all my burdens to God, and I no longer have to live my life on self-will and selfishness and all of that sort of thing. And it actually does feel like a weight's been lifted off your shoulder for a while. But then, as time goes on, at least for me, I'm not going to speak for anybody else, but me and, like, other people have said this, but right now, this is just from me. As you go on with doing that, I became increasingly kind of alienated and like I wasn't doing it right, and I would I really tried to overcome the self, which, by the way, is actually impossible, but that's a subject probably for another video. But if you notice the string, the connections here, if you notice, like, a common thread through all of this is socialism and Islamic supremacy and AA, which I consider to be like a cult, basically. And I know there's people that would be really upset by that, but again, this is my point of view. This is from my perspective. But that's another thing with collectivism, and that's how cults work. That's how they thrive. They might be a little different, because usually a cult lifts up one particular individual, but still, so they don't have all the markings of a cult, but that the one thing they do is trying to get rid of your individuality, which is the gangway itself. And as I went on in the years in the program, that really got to me, and I started to feel like, devalued, like my opinion didn't matter if it didn't serve the common good of AA and all of that. And honestly, I started to become really depressed over that. But that was a long time ago. I haven't been in AA for several years now, but I think to wrap up, the central point that I'm trying to make here is that all these destructive things, or these collectivist things, are always destructive to the individual, and so that's why the radical left and the Islamic supremacists, they're both collectivists, and so they use each other to try and achieve each of their aims. But a lot of times people don't even notice this, which, that's why I make videos like this, just so people will find out. And again, don't take any of this. Don't take my word for any of this. Do your own research. Go see. And, I try to, be very honest about my politics and all, and views and all that stuff. If you see something that, contradicts anything I've said, feel free to reach out. I'd love to have a discussion about it, as long as it's mature and respectful. But anyway, that's about it for me, guys. I'm gonna go relax and hang out with my little kitty cat. But that's it. I just wanted to cover all that. And I did leave out one thing really quickly. I forgot. The Torah view, at least from my perspective, favors the individual, because, well, that's a whole other topic for another video. But really quickly, God, made one man. He didn't make a whole bunch of people immediately. It all came from one man, which the science behind that, however, that's totally a separate issue from this video. But that shows that he does value each individual life, that the Torah does. So it goes against the concept of collectivism. And there's a really beautiful saying in the Talmud that if you save one life, you save a world. Which, right there, need I say more? The Torah tells us each life is precious, individual life is precious, and is a whole world. So clearly, at least from my perspective, what I think is the Torah is totally against collectivism and celebrates and wants us to celebrate our individuality. And I think that may be, if not the reason, but one reason why collectivist societies and governments and stuff always suck and bring nothing but misery and pain But yeah, so I want to tie it all with that last part. But yeah, if you guys if anyone enjoyed this video, please hit subscribe and a like, and I'll see you in the next one. So as always, love, peace, and chicken grease.